On this hot sheet, I discuss housing inventory, Jerome Powell's comments about the housing market, and Zillow's latest home price forecast. Today is Monday, August 28th, 2023. I am Byron Lazine, and the hot sheet starts now. Good morning. Welcome back to the hot sheet. Love to know which market you're tuning in live from if you're here on the live stream. Crazy week last week in Dallas, back to Naples, and now back in Naples before Connecticut for the rest of this week. Again, love to know where you guys are from. Hermosa Beach, it looks like Tucson, Arizona. I did get to see Mark last week in Dallas. All right, we've got a lot going on today here on this Monday. Let's dive right into the lead topic, inventory, as we do every single Monday, recapping the week behind. I'm going to go off of Logan Motoshami's market tracker using Altos Research for the data update. Weekly active listings for the past week rose 6,618. It's the biggest number in quite some time. It's a great number. It's great to see weekly active listings going up. We've been counting on this number going up all year, it seems. Okay, so that puts us into over 500,000 active weekly listings. Okay, 503,159. That is off from last year's mark at this time of 554,748. We did get a bigger increase in the same week this year than we did last year. The 6,000 this year, 6,000 plus, beats the 3,000 plus by double in the same week of last year. This is right now the inventory peak of the year at over 503,000. In 2015, we had active listings of over 1.2 million. So well off of what a normal market would be, but just taking the last couple years into context, this being our high inventory peak for this year, we'll take it. It provides opportunity for those who are looking. We're still negative year over year on inventory, but I'm starting to see signs of that gap closing again. Could we not catch up if we continue to see active listings tick up at a greater scale than we did last year? Could this line connect once again? I'm hopeful that it will. Nothing is going to help affordability and prices more than inventory increases. If we take a look at new listings, this is painting a dreadful picture and helping out. New listings is not only tracking an all-time low for any year recorded this year, it's also taken a dip at a time when you might think, well, geez, rates are going up. Maybe we would see new listings come up. But remember, most sellers are buyers. And so they're holding those listings back if they're going to be a buyer on the other side, would be my guess. For the week here, new listings was 55,000. That's a sharp dip from what we've been seeing. From July 21st till August 18th, we've been up above 60,000 on new listings. Now, the other, maybe let me know in the comments if you think this plays into it. Last couple weeks of August, you get vacation mode going on. You also have a holiday this coming weekend, and maybe some are saying we're just going to list after the holiday. With any hope, fingers are crossed over here, with any hope, we'll see new listings have a significant pop in the week or 2 weeks after the Labor Day weekend holiday. Maybe there's some strategizing from agents. Let me know what advice you're giving. If you're a listing agent, are you advising people that are like, hey, I want to list? Do I list this week? Do I list after the holiday? Are you a before or after the holiday if somebody's ready to list right now? Are you going out onto the market tomorrow, or are you waiting until after the Labor Day holiday? This will be a little mini poll we can just run here on the hot sheet. I mean, it's not a lot of, evidence, but maybe that's what's going on here on a national scale, where more people, whether it's the seller themselves or the listing agent, is saying, wait until after Labor Day. Listing agents, let me know, do you go before Labor Day live onto the market, or do you wait until after Labor Day? Maybe you're going coming soon so you don't miss Labor Day weekend eyeballs and then listing live after. Love to know if you're in the waiting club or if you're going live immediately because you just know the inventory isn't there, and the quicker you get onto the market, the faster you have a chance of selling. So new listings taking a hit in a year when we have an all-time low. This, I would imagine this is more to do with the mortgage rates than anything else. Most sellers happen to be buyers. All right. Are you buying what the go live immediately I'm seeing? Are you buying what the Fed is putting out there, specifically Jerome Powell? Him and his boys and girls were at Jackson Hole last week. I still don't know who pays for these Jackson Hole trips. Do we get to approve this expense report? I mean, what was the expense report of Jackson Hole? I wonder, I don't think they're flying in to Jackson Hole Southwest. It's just a guess. It's just a guess of mine. I don't think these guys and gals are taking random seating on Southwest into Jackson Hole and staying at the Holiday Inn in Jackson Hole. But nonetheless, they spent the week at Jackson Hole trying to figure out our economy. And we've got a clip from Jerome Powell, about a minute clip when he talks about housing. If you can expand the video, Bobby, and play Jay Powell from Jackson Hole on housing. There we go.
In the highly interest-sensitive housing sector, the effects of monetary policy became apparent soon after liftoff. Mortgage rates doubled over the course of 2022, causing housing starts and sales to fall and house price growth to plummet. Growth in market rents soon peaked and then steadily declined. Measured housing services inflation lagged these changes, as is typical, but has recently begun to fall. This inflation metric reflects rents paid by all tenants, as well as estimates of the equivalent rents that could be earned from homes that are owner-occupied. Because leases turn over slowly, it takes time for a decline in market rent growth to work its way into the overall inflation measure. The market rent slowdown has only recently begun to show through to that measure. The slowing growth in rents for new leases over roughly the past year can be thought of as in the pipeline and will affect measured housing services inflation over the coming year. Going forward, if market rent growth settles near pre-pandemic levels, housing services inflation should decline toward its pre-pandemic level as well. And we will continue to watch the market rent data closely for a signal of the upside and downside risks to housing services inflation.
I have a hard time believing that the Fed is watching real-time rental data closely, because if they were, it would not only show that that pipeline that he talks about into the future is looking really good, but it would actually make a case for them not to do what they're leaking out they're going to do now, is that they might raise again. It would make the case for them to just hold, or maybe even as some, look at this rental data closely would say cut. I don't know if that I'm in that camp, but certainly hold and not increase yet again. He mentioned owner's equivalent rent. We know how I feel about owner's equivalent rent. There's no other way to describe it, is a make-believe number. It is polling homeowners what they could get for a similar house to, if they were to go rent. They were to basically rent their house out, or if they were to go rent out a similar house, what would it cost them? I don't want to know what the average homeowner thinks that's been in their house 10, 15 years it would cost them for rent. I don't care about owner's equivalent rent. It is a made up phony number, a guessing game number that makes up such a large percentage of CPI. I have no care in the world about somebody who's not analytically looking at the housing data, what they think they can get for an equivalent rental value of a home if they were to go rent it. Just don't care. Okay. And a lot of these numbers are sticking on the high side while we see rents coming down dramatically. And I've shown these charts a million times. I've got them. All of our past charts are in our daily download. You can go find all of these. Okay. I can bring it up right now. I can bring up this one here that we've shown a bunch of times. It's living in Baymax. So if you go into Baymax, if you're a member, if you're not a member, use HOT for your discount code. You get 10% off. All of these charts are always living in there. Look at this one. It shows median rent year over year coming down as fast as it went up, and even more so on the downside than from when it went up. So these real-time rents have been coming down in a significant way for a while. Okay. And we talk about Fannie Mae just put out a piece. There's a piece on nowbam.com looking at Fannie Mae's outlook. And Fannie Mae's talking about the same thing, how these multifamily permits have now slowed down significantly. They've slowed down to like 2020 levels. And look at what's happened to the vacancy rate at the same time that less multifamily permits are being called for. Vacancy rate is up at a higher level than pre-pandemic, a higher level than at any point going back to 2017. So if this isn't even more evidence that rents are going to continue to decelerate, that rents are going to continue in the short term to come down, I'm very bullish on the next 100 years that rents continue to go up, and that people who own investment real estate are going to do very, very well in profiting off of that business. But when I'm looking at the short term and inflation coming down, I'm pointing towards this as big time evidence that we're doing fine in inflation as it relates to housing. He keeps talking about numbers that will reflect this year. Jerome, all the numbers that are going to reflect this year, when you look at housing and shelter and rental, these are positive numbers for inflation. Everything outside of home prices, okay? But when they look at CPI data, they're not looking at home prices, okay? The inventory has shrunk down so much that home price growth is somewhat contained. We're gonna talk about what Zillow thinks about that here in just a second, but there's just not a lot of opportunity. Okay, there's not a lot of supply. We know we need supply, but there's not a ton of that happening right now. Guess that could be an argument for prices getting out of control too, but not with Jerome's 7.5% rates. Be hard to do. All right. Powell says that the effects of the monetary policy became apparent soon after liftoff in the housing sector. Of course, we saw that big spike in inventory last year, but it was also coming off of an all-time low because our housing market is so broken due to the lack of inventory. The fact that mortgage rates kept on an upward trend in 2023 following the Fed's moves to combat persistent inflation, and we know where they've been at the highest point in over 23 years, really, in the last week. There are economists that potentially see us reaching an 8% level. So nobody cares about home price affordability, okay, from the Fed. They don't care about home price affordability. They've done nothing to talk about the pipeline of inventory that we need in the purchase market. They just get hung up on this one rental number, an owner's equivalent, which is a made up number that Europe doesn't, there's that piece in the Wall Street Journal that we covered in the past. If we didn't use owner's equivalent rate, we'd already be closer to the 2% level of inflation that the Fed's going for. And so why they don't recognize real-time data is beyond me. Regarding housing services inflation, Powell said that it lagged the monetary tightening. Yes, but the information that's going to come out here in the future actually helps your case, Jerome. According to Powell, the main concern here is rents, which have only begun to slow down. Well, they've been slowing down since March because, I've shown this one a million times. This was back in March from a guy who I I don't know, Barry Sternlight. He owns 125,000 doors across America, multi-billion-dollar fund. I mean, back in March, he showed year-over-year rent growth declining significantly. He compared that to the CPI shelter. He said these two things are off. He was calling in March for us to stop raising the federal interest rate. If I'm going to the racetrack, okay, and I got Barry Sternlight coming out, and I've got Jerome Powell coming out. I've got somebody who's been in the arena in Barry Sternlight, and he's the 5 horse. And then I got Jerome Powell, and he's the 1 horse. And I don't care if he's the favorite. I don't care if he's the darling of Washington. I'm taking Barry Sternlight. I'm going with a guy who's got 125,000 doors across America, who's got a multi-billion-dollar fund, who has made it through the GFC. Yeah, I'm going to put my eggs in that basket. And he says since March, he was modeling this before Realtor.com said rent growth is negative year over year. And before Redfin said it, he said it back in March. And Powell's saying it has only begun. Where have you been? Where have you been, Jerome? This is now 6 months ago that this information was out there. And Sternlight was on CNBC saying, just look at apartments.com. Just grab some CoStar data. Maybe Jerome doesn't want to get the CoStar subscription. Or maybe he doesn't watch the hot sheet. You can get the most out of our content by getting our Baymax subscription, by the way. It's 10% off if you use the code HOT. But maybe he doesn't want to pay for these subscriptions for real-time data. And hot sheet is free on YouTube. All somebody's got to do is send him the link. Maybe he wants to save all his money for Jackson Hole trips. I've never been to Jackson Hole. Looks beautiful, by the way. I mean, I don't blame him. For wanting to spend as much time, energy, and money in Jackson Hole. All right. Zillow isn't blaming Jerome, but they are saying because of inventory, they're putting the blame on inventory, that they're full-blown bull on housing prices and they're a bear on volume, meaning transaction count. Okay, so Zillow says that home prices will jump by 6.5% by July 2024. We got a beautiful Lance Lambert slide here that shows they believe between July of 23 and July of 2024, home prices are going to jump basically across all of the U.S. They've got parts of Louisiana, and I guess that'd be eastern Texas, a couple little spattering parts there along the shore in the Gulf, maybe because of hurricanes. I don't know. Shout out to everybody. I'm bugging out of here tonight, not because of the hurricane, but by design. Already supposed to go to Connecticut, but shout out to everybody on the Gulf Coast of Florida. Tropical storm, potentially moving into a hurricane. Be safe, get prepared. But look at this. The whole entire map, Zillow expects regional home prices to increase 6.5% over the next 10 months. And in some parts, they've got it going up more than that. Now, their chief economist, Skylar Olson, said that this is where they see home prices going, but they see volume and transactions continuing to plummet. So, if you're an agent, then you understand, hey, there's going to be less transactions. There's still going to be plenty of them. But Zillow's not afraid of 7.5% interest rates when it comes to values. They continue to increase. It's why I believe this 7.5% moment here is actually an opportunity for buyers. Because the minute it comes back down to 6.5%, you're just going to have more competition. And I believe that's the recipe for a 6.5% pop in home prices. That drop that Mortgage Banker Association and Fannie and Freddie, so many believe is coming before the end of the year on the 30-year fix. Don't know that I'm fully in that camp, but that 30-year fix drop that they're projecting, if that comes, that creates more competition. That's what's going to ultimately push up the price in an inventory-starved climate. Okay, they do not see transactions coming up because they can't figure out where the inventory is coming from. So that makes sense. That might be something you want to share with people who are waiting for a home price decline. Okay, that's available in the daily downloads on Baymax, so you can grab that. You know, for those that think, okay, well, we're at 7.5% now, prices are going to come down. No, they're not likely to. There's not really any projections pointing towards a drop that's significant enough that will save you money, as opposed to potentially shopping now with less competition, getting the home that you desire with less multiple offers or potentially no multiple offers. I think it's a strategy that buyers should be aware of and should be thinking about right now. It comes down to real estate advisors and professionals to really get after it. A story that I need to mention, you're going to be hearing about it a lot more from me, maybe not on the hot sheet as much, unless you really want me to talk about, this kind of stuff on the hot sheet. I don't know that if it's that relevant for this show. I'll certainly be talking about it on tomorrow's Real Word Pod. And you probably won't hear me not talk about it for quite some time until these lawsuits are behind us. NAR has been accused. There's a bombshell report. Now, this report did come out recently here, and it was kind of just shuffled under the rug. This is on nowbam.com. You can read the entire piece. There was a piece in New York Times this morning. When you've got the New York Times now coming after NAR, it's not just DOJ. It's like everybody. NAR accused of sexual harassment, discrimination, and intimidation. Boy, and by the way, shout out to whoever picked the thumbnail of Kenny Parcel, the NAR president, putting up the L. Yeah, you look like a loser today, my friend. The entire NAR organization does. So great thumbnail choice there, whoever did that at BAM. Listen, NAR's got so many things going on, and we wrote the piece not too long ago. You can find it on nowbam.com about how much money is going into Hava's media group. Just an absurd amount of money, tens and tens of millions of dollars. Every single dollar that NAR has of ours, of real estate professionals that pays in, should be going to protecting buyer agency. I mean, they've got all these skeletons in the closet, and it just feels like they've taken their eye off the ball of what they should be doing, which is protecting consumers and real estate agents. But instead, they've made sure that they, can get their personal desire accused, apparently. This is all accusations. Apparently, they've just spent more time focused on sweeping things under the rug, their personal fetishes, and it's just sickening to me. NAR has their day to actually prove themselves right now. It certainly wouldn't eliminate this stuff. Did you see the poll they gave at Summit? I didn't see the poll. The poll, provides. Listen, yes, I did see this. The NAR is NAR has questionable value for quite some time. By the way, top line here, BAM Camp does not have questionable value. There's some tickets remaining for September 20th down here in Naples. Every BAMX member gets 25% off. So the game is like, use code HOT to become a BAMX member. That gets you 10% off of BAMX, which is like coffee money. You're like, what the heck? BAMX costs like nothing. That's crazy. And then you get 25% off your BAM Camp ticket. That's going to be incredible value. But yeah, the value's been questionable for some time. The only thing NAR has left to showcase value would be protecting these antitrust lawsuits, buyer agency, and coming up with a deal. Now, I don't know if you got New York Times going after you. You've got DOJ coming after you. You may have Washington turning on you, which has been in your favor for quite some time. Doesn't appear that NAR has many friends left over at this moment. Doesn't look like 10-year, just an update there. Look at that. Realtor.com is now doing some advertising, huh? Who would have known? Realtor.com is going to do some advertising on the top of the Wall Street Journal 10-year today. They've lost website traffic. Oh, it just flipped off to Lucid. $749 a month for a Lucid. That's psychotic. Realtor.com lost website traffic to Homes.com this year. A lot of folks who bought into Realtor.com, including my team in CT, lost money in the first 6 months of the year because of their traffic. Now they're doing banner ads. Expect Realtor.com to be on TV the next 6 months as they try to save face. Okay, enough of the banner ads on Wall Street Journal. 4.228 on the 10-year, so down a tick. Take that. 7.39 is where we ended last week on the 30-year fixed. Probably won't see much movement. Hopefully we see a little bit downward trend. The 30-year fixed weekly from Freddie Mac was the highest we've seen in 23 years at 7.23. All right. There you go. Hope to see you in BAM Camp. Next week, by the way, I'll be in Austin, Texas on Friday at Elite Agents Jeremy Knight's event. There's also a link for that down below if you're in Texas and you want to go there. My return to Texas. Hopefully I'm over my Texas cold, which you can probably guess whatever the hell that was. I don't know. There's skepticism out there of what everybody caught in Dallas last week. All right. Hope everybody has a great start to the week. Monday. See you back here on the hot sheet tomorrow, 9:30 on the East, 6:30 on the West. Until then, toodaloo.